Ba-ba! Hello, hello, hello! Here we are. Why is everything slightly off? No, wait, it's not off center. I am just off center. I knew that. Hello, chat. How are you today? I had a little bit of a headache this morning when I woke up, but I think I'm feeling pretty good now. I think I mostly just needed, like, probably an unhealthy amount of caffeine, but, like, who's counting 8 cups of coffee? So, I'm trying to decide. I'll probably give people a minute to kind of show up before I get into the meat of the announcement, because there is a thing that I want to, like, kind of go over. Because for a little while, I'm going to be changing what the Friday streams are, and maybe adding a couple little gorilla streams in here and there. But basically, I have an idea for a project I want to do, and I'm going to need volunteers for it. I'm going to need help doing this, because it's probably too much for me to do on my own. And it's Minecraft related. But I'll give people, like, a couple of minutes to show up. While, you know, because stream notifications take forever to go out. Discord notifications don't always get noticed right away. So, I think I'll give it, like, 5 minutes before I actually do the announcement. But while we do that, chat, I have a question. What's your favorite Pokemon? No. This is actually a different Minecraft mega project that I want to do. Rotom gun form is pretty good. It is unfortunate that, like, OKO moves are kind of unreliable. Sawaddle's your favorite Pokemon? That's cute. Or Swaddle, rather. Because, I want to talk about this. I need to wait. I need to give people, like, 5 minutes to show up, at least. Like, it's been 1 whole minute. As you can tell, I'm excited about this. I've had this idea kicking around for, honestly, since before I started streaming. And then it only really seemed feasible after I started streaming. And then I sort of never got around to actually properly getting it underway. But it's a thing that I want to get underway really badly. And for the time being, Friday streams are probably going to be what's going to be almost entirely focused on that. And I'll maybe throw in a couple extra streams otherwise. But, I expect this to be a pretty long-term project. It's going to take a lot of planning. The actual, like, video game portion of it might not even come into play for a couple weeks, because there will be a lot of planning that will lead up to things. But it'll be fun, because there's going to be a very creative side to it as well. Because aside from, like, the Minecraft side of things, there will be a little bit of, like, block bench work and a little bit of, like, character design and stuff like that. So we'll get to mix in some art streams and stuff, because I do miss streaming art a lot. Dong building contest? No. That's way down the line. We need to really, like, up our numbers for that. Screw it. I'll fill people in when they show up, as they show up, and it'll just give me an excuse to have things to yap about. Because the thing that I'm thinking is, right, is there is a little Minecraft mod called Axiom that makes building really big things a lot easier. It makes, like, large-scale terraforming a lot more feasible. It makes building, like, big forests, expansive areas, stuff like that. Like, that's all made dramatically easier by Axiom, right? And then another mod that I love for Minecraft is, of course, Cobblemon, because I like Pokemon. Hi, Sapling! So what I was thinking is, while I got ads, I thought I just killed ads a second ago. Twitch lying to me. But basically, what I was gonna get to here is... I feel like I'm not even gonna end up playing Witch in the Woods. I feel like I'm just gonna end up yapping about this project. Okay, chat. Question. I'll announce the thing, and then I'll put up a poll or, like, ask after. But should we change the stream category to this in a second and just start working on planning things out? Because basically, what I was thinking is taking a small team of people to help me as volunteers and builders and stuff, and Cobblemon, and building ourselves a little full Pokemon region in Minecraft as like an adventure map type thing that we could then just let people loose into. You should change it now because we both know you're gonna anyway. We don't know that for sure. I could play Witch in the Woods and Yap at the same time. Technically, we did already get a Witch in the Woods stream in earlier this week, so we technically got our stream of Witch in the Woods in, but that was a makeup stream for Sunday because I was sick, which means technically I guess this would then just become another thing that gets made up. You can, but you probably won't. I mean, yeah, you might be right about that. We'll play a little bit of Little Witch in the Woods. But yeah, basically what I'm thinking is I want to make a Pokemon region in Minecraft, and I want to build it with all of you and set it up as a little adventure map where people can come in and play through. But there is so much planning that will need to go into this. Hello. Because basically, like, it sounds easy on the surface, right? Just, oh yeah, we'll just, like, build a bunch of little towns and stuff like that. But, like, I want to kind of do this... I mean, there's no necessarily right or wrong way to do this, but I want to do this, quote-unquote, right. So, like, I want to actually properly plan out the towns, give them their own themes. I want to figure out what Pokemon are going to be on what routes. We need to decide a bunch of things, like... if it's even going to have all of the Pokemon available or not, or if they're going to be sort of spread out. You know, think kind of how more modern Pokemon regions do it, where, like, not every Pokemon is available. And if we go that route, like... what are we talking about? Alright. See, this is why I should have slowed my roll and waited, like, a couple minutes for notifications to go out, so I could fill people in. So, Friday streams, going forward for a little while, are going to be dedicated to Minecraft and Cobblemon and art streams and stuff like that for a specific project. That project being that I want to make a Pokemon region in Minecraft. So, first things first, we're gonna need, like, just so many different things. Charm, one of the regulars here, also is pretty experienced with modifying Cobblemon itself. So there is the potential for even adding other things in on top of stuff. Like, you know, custom items, custom abilities, changing movesets around, stuff like that. So we could get, like, as into the weeds on it or as, like, vague as we want. But I think for the most part, that would be later things down the line. And the only thing that would maybe be an immediate consideration would be if I shrink this down to be of reasonable size instead of absolutely massive, would be maybe adding a custom starter trio. Maybe. It depends on how much I struggle with, like, getting Blockbench and custom stuff built in here. Some of you might even recognize who the other two starters are. I have no idea who the Navaula one is based off of. Like, looks kind of like some weirdo nerd. Navaula bowling? You're so right. It's so round. You could throw it right into the bowling pins. But yeah, like, that would be a thing to decide later down the line. regardless, I am immediately just outright exercising my power as the despotic tyrant of this project to declare that the Route 1 bird is going to be Hoot Hoot. Hoot Hoot's going to be the Route 1 bird. I think that's just like a legal requirement. Oh, the middle one and the right one are the same Pokemon? Yeah, you're right. They are kind of a little bit similar. But yeah, so basically, there's a lot of stuff that we'll need to decide on this, and I kind of want to get at least some of these things slowly figured out. Obviously, Friday is going to be the main dedicated streams for these going forward for the time being. I'll need volunteers to help me build, but the building process isn't going to start for a while, and isn't even, like, limited to, like, regulars on the stream and stuff. So, like, if you have other, like, VTubers or streamers or stuff who would be interested in this sort of project that, you know, you think would want to actually help, like, work on the region and stuff, feel free to reach out to them and send them my way, and I can maybe get them in. Because there's no upper limit on how many people I can get involved in this project. It's just, we don't want to necessarily have a too many cooks in the kitchen type situation. I don't have ulterior motives to want to be a builder. I already know that you're just going to build Among Us, and I'm going to have to find them and delete them and murder them. But to kind of go over how Cobblemon works, right? It pretty much works exactly how you would expect Pokemon to work in terms of, like, battling and things like that. But for Pokemon spawns, we have all sorts of different things that you can edit for them. So, like, you can edit these spawns down to specific coordinates. You can edit these spawns to be only near certain block types, certain times of day. You can have certain conditions need to be met. So, like, we can build, like, the Pokemon routes and put exactly what Pokemon we want as spawns on them at all times. Like, we could have singular Pokemon show up. We can do respawning blocks pretty easily, so we can do things like, say, water-breathing helmets to simulate, like, the Dive HM. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do with that, and I want to build it as, like, an actual little adventure region. Like, I don't just necessarily want it to be, like, a do-whatever sort of thing. I want it to be, like, at least a little bit structured, like, have some sort of thematic through line to it. And for each of the towns, we'll need to determine, like, themes and trainers and types and gyms. We'll have to determine if we're even going to go for gyms, or if we're going to go for more of, like, an Alola Island trial type thing. Because the island trials would probably need more of, like, an overseer / like, GM type thing for them. Which would be fine, because, like, obviously, if people were going to play through, I'd probably, once the region's more built, actually just have some, you know, have some streams basically following people around through their playthrough of the region and be their annoying tutorial NPC all the time. But, like, gyms we could fully automate with, like, trainers and stuff like that. Would we want to design all of the gym leaders from scratch? Would we want to have perhaps streamers or stuff like that submit teams to be the gyms? Would we want there to be a strict gym order, or would we want it to be more freeform? Yeah, side quests are another good example from Molly here. Like, we have things like that we'll want to decide. And I think a big part of the project from the get-go would be kind of figuring out what we would want to plan in what order. Like, sort of like a hierarchy of importance in terms of things to figure out. Because, like, obviously, up near the very, very, very top would be things like towns and routes and stuff. We would need to make an actual sort of vague map of the region. Whereas, like, stuff like side quests could be less important because we don't necessarily need side quests until we have a place to have side quests in. But maybe side quests are more important than, like, you know, like certain other aspects of things, like placing items left out on the routes. Had to take a sip of water. So yeah, basically, that's kind of the rough gist of that. And I guess the main thing, yeah, regional Pokedex. So I'm currently leaning towards not having all of the Pokemon, which I know is sort of sacrilege, right? But the thing is with Minecraft, we have the option for things like trains and portals and teleports and stuff like that. So, like, technically speaking, we have an infinite expandability in terms of, like, people can go to other places to catch other Pokemon that aren't strictly available in quote-unquote the region. And I think, like, it would be more interesting from a designer standpoint and also from, like, a gameplay standpoint of not necessarily everything always being available. Yeah, we could have a Pokemon game where we go to hell. We have the option to have the Nether there. Then there's other things too, like player building, because it's primarily intended to be designed as an adventure map, but like we could set up things like player lots for people to build their houses on or stuff like that. Yeah, like Platinum Distortion World. Ultra wormholes are already, I think, a thing in Cobblemon, if I recall. If not, they're pretty easy for us to put in via portals and command blocks and stuff like that. Other things to decide are things like how legendaries are going to function. Are legendaries going to be a unique thing that only one individual player could get? Are there going to be multiple legendaries and anybody can just go through and complete the quest to get that legendary? Etc, etc, etc. There's a lot of planning that's going to go into this. And I do want to get a tiny, tiny bit of that planning, like, underway in this stream. But the main thing that I sort of want to get out of the way immediately is the broad theme of the region. Okay? Like, you know how, like, Sun and Moon is sort of based off of Hawaii, and then you have, like, Unova is based around, like, New York. We don't necessarily need to base it around a strict real-world location, but I feel like every Pokemon region has a unifying theme to it. And I want to know what sort of theme we might want to go for in that, like, sort of vein. I mean, I'm making the region, so the region is, of course, going to be super queer. I was thinking, as far as, like, a initial theme, if we're going for, like, a streaming, like, Minecraft Pokemon thing, we could go for sort of, like, a more fantasy VTuber-y environment as our theme to begin with. Moss Cave Route, one of my favorite Minecraft biomes. Yeah, we could even just go for, like, a sort of Minecraft-y theme and make use of biomes that already exist. And, like, modify them into more discrete routes. Because that's one of the key things to figure out. Another one of the key things to figure out is if we're going to do an island challenge style thing or a gym style challenge thing. And the other big thing to figure out would be what gimmicks we would want available, because Cobblemon has options for all of them. We have things for Gigantamax, we have things for Z-moves, we have things for Mega Pokemon, we have, like, all of the gimmicks are available in that regard, right? But do we want all of the gimmicks to be available? Do we want them to be limited? Do we want none of the gimmicks to be available? Is there some sort of gimmick that we could figure out that would be within the, like, realm of something that we could easily modify into Cobblemon to be the, like, region's gimmick? I think a gym should be a VTuber who designs their own gym. I was initially considering that, because I've had for years concepts for, like, a player-run Pokemon League. The problem is, though, is with people going inactive, or, like, real-life issues, difficulty scheduling things, if the gym is fully designed by one singular person and run by one singular person, that can lead to a lot of, like, pipeline issues in terms of actually keeping flow on the creative side of things. Where, like, you essentially end up with too many roadblocks towards actually making the updates and making the progress on that regard. But I do like the idea of gyms being designed by people. Because the thing is we can automate the gyms themselves. Like, the battle in the gym, that can be fully done via scripted NPCs. We can make that super easy. That is just a base feature of Cobblemon that we can do no problem. But the thing is usually, like, gyms, for example, are already tied very strongly to the town they're in. Think like Balonlea and the Fairy Gym. Like, they're one and the same. The gym of a city tends to kind of determine the city, if that makes sense. Like, you almost... And I'm not sure how they do this in Pokemon itself, right? I would assume that they probably start by designing what they want the type of gym to be, in terms of, like, Pokemon type. And then they probably design, like, the gym leader from there and the city from the gym leader. Yeah, gym leaders are also, like, fantastic opportunities to actually, like, make characters and use OCs and stuff like that. Like, designing gym leader streams could be really fun, where we could design discrete gym leaders, and I could use Armorer's Workshop and or Blockbench to just directly model that gym leader and put them into Minecraft. No, do not make, use existing. I do have at least, like, 20 different gym leader OCs. Just already sitting in the fridge. They're probably a little bit moldy now. But yeah, like... What if the gym battle forces you to do a, like, gimmick outside of combat? Yeah, so that's another thing, too, that would come with designing the gyms, is, like, is there going to be, like, a gym challenge gimmick thing? Yeah, I do think, long-term, I would want the champion of the region to be an actual person. Like, either, like, the first person to actually clear through the adventure map gets to be the champion, or stuff like that. I mean, a parkour challenge in Minecraft is a classic. You might even have to take the jump for the beef in order to get into the gym. But again, that's all way further down the design line. Right now, we're kind of thinking really big, really large scale. We just want to know what the region's theme is going to be. Also, like, on top of that, like... what sort of... aside from, like, the theme, how big do we want the scale of this region to be? Like, do we want it to be sort of, like, super abstracted down, like Pokemon? Or do we want something kind of a little bit on the larger side, because Minecraft, like, allows for very large traversal areas? Like, do we want a mountain because in Pokemon, it's very easy because it's essentially, like, almost map tiles. Whereas in Minecraft, we need the physical space between one town and another town to actually put the literal route between the towns there. A Snorlax belly could be fun for a gym. Witch of Mercury dual rules for the champion, clearly? Oh, right, yeah, that makes sense. If you beat the champion, you get to marry the champion. One thing I want to, like, vaguely, not necessarily, like, right now, right this second, right? But I do want to think about it through the course of the stream. What do we want to call this region? Because, like, you know, you've got Alola, you've got Galar, you've got Unova, Sinnoh, Johto, Kanto. Like, we need a name for our region, and I think that will give us a good starting point that's not Amoga. We're not going with the Amoga region. If you displease the champion, they take half of your Pokemon in the divorce. Your Mousehold de-evolves and just goes back to being Tandemaus. Magneton just becomes 3 Magnemites again. But you have to figure out who gets the 3rd Magnemite. But yeah, like, there's so much to figure out with this. And I'm just trying to think of, like, what the best way to structure this would be. Because I've wanted to do this for a long time, and through, like, the advent of Cobblemon and Axiom, I think it's the first time that it actually feels like something feasible to work on. Like, it's something that the workload is in a human realm of doability, especially with me recruiting a couple extra people to help. And of course, even if, like, you're not on the team as, like, a builder, there's going to be a lot of creative streams for that, like designing towns, designing gyms, making decisions about what Pokemon are present, what aren't, side quests, stuff like that. So, like, there's always going to be something that you can contribute to, even if you're not directly the one doing the building. I'm just trying to think, like... First things first, I do have Obsidian open for this. So, like, I want to figure out the name of the region. That's the important thing. Alma's vaguely in my neck of the woods. Like, not completely unfeasible that Alma and I could have a, like, real-life collab at some point. I'm not calling it the Donkey Bus region. I don't think that's the one that I'm going for. The Virtua region, I actually do kind of like that. I think that might be what we're going with. Virtua region's really nice. Real life collab. Love how streamers talk about normal people things. No, I mean, like, if Alma ever visits me, I am physically dragging her onto stream and we're doing a collab in real life. Oh, right! Passel, you just reminded me of something that we didn't even think about. We'll need to make a villain team. I'm the alpha nerd, but don't tell her you said that? It's okay. Your secret is safe with me, except for when I tell her that you said that. The villain team being the mods would be really funny, but I don't know. So, yeah, so we have the Virtua region. Obviously, No, nobody's calling the mods on you, Rose. You do not have to worry. You're fine. Now I'm trying to think, with the Virtua region, do we want to, like... Because this gives us something to work from, right? Do we want it to be, like, a more futuristic region where we could have, like, quote-unquote virtual worlds and stuff like that? Oratorio just makes me think of, Danmachi's city, Orario. Wait, Rose, you just gave me a great idea, because I kind of want to name a town Serif Town. Serif Town would be kind of cute. You just have to build all of the buildings with little trims on them. I don't know. Would Serif Town have sons, or would it be Sans sons? Name all the towns after fonts. Arial Town, we've got Helvetica City. If everything's named after fonts, though, we could go for a more literary name for the region, too. Wingding Caves would be really funny, and we just put a whole bunch of Zubats and stuff in there. I like this. I like naming stuff after fonts. Wait, Rose, you're so right. There would have to be an unknown cave. So... Alright. So, let me just get a notepad going here. Because I want to write some of this down. So, let me just go to this. Let the scope call begin. I know, I've wanted to do this for so many years. Like, I know we were supposed to Little Witch in the Woods. We technically Little Witch in the Woods on Friday. You know, I'm just gonna change the stream category right now to just chatting for now. And we can maybe come back to, There we go. I've added even more W's to the witch. Just chatting, I don't see RuneScape in the background. I assure you, RuneScape is currently open. RuneScape is always open. We could do the Libera region, too. Which would kind of work with the font/library theme. We could do, like, the Fontaine region. Fontaine could be funny with fonts. There, see? RuneScape, open. I was just currently logged out, because, what was I even doing at the time? I was doing Hallowed Sepulchre. I can't design a thing and do Hallowed Sepulchre at the same time. There is too much going on for that. Just gonna... what other... We could do the Scripta region. Mr. Cursive is a great idea for, like, a gym leader. But, okay. So I think we have some good ideas for names, right? Ooh, Velia's really good, Molly. That's another really strong name suggestion. I think what I'll do is eventually I'll put the final name of the region to a vote. But I like that one a lot. Valia region's really good. Um, I still like the idea of having a Dark Academia region. I think that would work really well for a town. Because the thing is we're going to need... If we're going with a gym challenge, that should be something we decide on right now. Are we going with an island challenge or are we going with a gym challenge? I'm leaning kind of gym challenge just because it's easier to set up and automate. And we can do, like, gimmick style things where, like, you have to do the little mini game before you do the gym. Because, like, the mini games could just be things that are set up in terms of, like, you have to do, like, a jump puzzle, get to a dispenser, push the button, and it gives you the thing to serve as the key to get into the gym. In the Pokemon Sonian sense, honestly, it works. Wait, so, like, would, if you have Pokemon Sonian for, like, in-universe, would it be, like, a Miyamotonian for, like, out-of-universe designer? Oh no, that would be the worst education system. And you beat up the strongest battler in our town to get funding for your education. Alright, so I think currently we're leaning on... gym trial primary with Gimmicks. I understood none of those words. Oh, I thought you were talking about, like, a Doyleist versus Watsonian analysis of media in the terms of, like, Pokemon Sonian. So, like, for your Doyleist perspective, you'd have, like, Miyamotonian because Shigeru Miyamoto. Alright, so another question here is, we could technically break with the 8 gym tradition, or we could stick with the 8 gym tradition. I'm thinking probably we just stick with the 8 gym tradition, because it keeps scope creep kind of in line, right? Oh! 6 or 7 gyms? No. We're going at least 8. As for this, let me insert a table. Gym. Theme. And type. I think for Dark Academia, we need it to be a dark type Pokemon. Gym. Dark Fairy. Dark Fairy could work really well for Dark Academia. Ooh, wait, okay. So, idea. Do we want our gimmick to be dual type gyms? Because that's another thing, is what sort of format do we want to employ for the battling? Do we want it to be like modern competitive Pokemon, where it's primarily double battles? Do we want it to be single battles, a la like how most Pokemon games usually are? Do we want double battles to be a gym gimmick, similar to like Raihan in Galar region? Double battle can be a gym gimmick? Fair enough. I do really like the idea of all of our gyms being dual type, though. There's so many characters that I'll want to put into this eventually, but unfortunately, characters will come way after we have the core region, like, in terms of, like, having an idea of stuff, because individual characters will probably make the towns first, will make the routes between them, will make the gym leaders and stuff like that. Thinking of dual types that aren't common. Yeah, because, like, obviously we could have, like, a steel / electric type. So wait, here's the question, though. We need all of our town names are named after fonts, right? What is the town gonna be for the Dark Academia? Carving, papyrus, ink. Oh, that could work. We could do any sort of, like... Oh no, I just realized we could have Kerning City again. Because kerning is a literary term. Or I guess not necessarily a literary term, but like a typesetting term. Yeah, like, we can have other little extra towns and stuff on the side. Like, Kerning City could be something accessed via, like, train or, like, portal or stuff like that. We could just build, like, a little Kerning City reference. And you could catch, like, mushroom Pokemon and, like, Grapple-locked there. You know, like, take the Zubats because of the Sturges in the subways. Gothic, I feel like just calling it Gothic Town is maybe a little bit dry, but... let's see. I'm trying to think what some popular, like, Gothic fonts are. Yeah, there is Blackletter. Ravenscroft. What is... Wait, I need to look something up. I want to find the specific font that everybody uses for ye olde English. That's not the one that I was looking for. I did just find out, though, however, if I am searching fonts that are, like, default fonts in Google, it seems to put the search results in that font, which is very funny. But, we could do Garamond Town, like this. Textura could work. Hmm. All right, let's for now we can do we'll come back to the font names. We'll come back to the font names. We need 8 gyms, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We don't need all of them right this second. Like, because this would be a lot, but I do want to, like, while we're brainstorming, like, pick up a couple opportunities. Because, like, a Dark Academia city using Dark Fairy types named after, like, Gothic fonts is so good. Like, that is an exquisite concept for a Pokemon city. Obviously, we need a... So for a theme, I think another one that we could have is we could have, like, a very newspaper-y town. So, like, this gets into, like, Dark Academia. We have newspaper. We have, like... Castle, you're a genius. Courier Town is incredible for, like... Okay. So I like that one a lot. I like Courier as a newspaper town because, yeah, I think flying is a great option. I'm thinking flying electric or flying steel. There's a classic typeface called Sylvan. Neat. Maybe plant type for paper. So far, one thing that I'm noticing with these is that these are diametrically opposed types. So we have dark and we have fairy. We have flying, we have electric. So we could keep our dual types as sort of a thing where, like, they're directly against one another. Ice fire. Water fire could work really well as, like, a steam town, though. But ice fire could also work really nicely for, like, a mountaintop hot spring town or stuff like that. We'll put water fire here for now, because we can always change these as we go. Like, nothing is set in stone until we actually start building and stuff like that. Ooh. Fighting Psychic Gym for superheroes with Comic Sans? I like that. For now, the intention is to probably not do any custom Pokemon, with the exception of maybe making some custom starters for the region. Mostly because, like, this is going to be a very big project as is. And I'm not super experienced in Blockbench. I can do, like, basic modeling, but, like, it's going to be a lot to do already. So, like, we'll want to keep the scope something manageable. We can always expand the scope later, but once we've gotten things underway, it can be hard to kind of shrink things down a little bit. Normal ghost. True, sorry, I'm very autistic. No, same, bestie. Like, I'm currently sitting here figuring out a Pokemon region and what fonts we should use for the town names. You're in good company here. I do like normal ghost because I like ghost in general. There's a typeface called Bookman. The thing is I want to keep, like, a very... I want the font names to be recognizable, I guess is what I'm going for. So, like, we definitely need a Helvetica town. What would Helvetica's... Would Helvetica be the, like, normal ghost city? Helvetica could be the city we put in the Nether. Alright, so now we need, 3 more to get our core gym types. Poison grass? Poison grass could be fun. Poison grass could also work very well as, like, an early town. I do want to do steel, but we'll need something... Let me open up a Pokemon type chart real quick here. I want to see if there's any cool ones that I'm not thinking of in terms of, like, type weaknesses. Steel grass. Because the thing is steel is weak to fire, it is weak to water, it is weak to fighting. It is weak to ground. We could do steel ground. Water, steel, steampunk town. I was thinking water, fire. Because right now, these types are either immune to each other or weak to each other, right? Where, like, one type counters the other type. Because, like, water, fire just actually makes steam. Comics. Helvetica we'll figure out later. I think it should be like ironic ghost town. For steel, because we could do steel ground and we could have like an underground town. Kind of like a mining town or whatever. Yeah, I get you with the Earthbound. That would... I also just like Earthbound aesthetic in general. Steel and ground don't really interact. Steel is weak to ground. Mining is more rock? Well, steel is super effective on rock, so... either works. So we'll leave it like this for now. We'll put the gym number here. I do think we should have a grass poison or a grass bug town. One of the two. Like, grass bug would be fun because it could work really well as an early gym. Because a lot of bug Pokemon can work pretty nicely as early opponents. So I think we'll make that our first town. The temptation to call it, like, Silverfish Town, though. We'll need one more type. Dragon Ice, and we could have, like, a fantasy novel-themed town? Go, like, a little bit more medieval, knights, witches, wizards, stuff like that. Have, like, a snowy dragon town. Castle in the mountains type deal. And I think that should, like, either that or the Dark Fairy gym should be our, like, final gym. Because I like the idea of the Dragon Ice gym being a thing that you have to kind of scale up a very treacherous mountain to get to. Like, just getting to the city with the gym could already be a bit of a challenge. And dragons also tend to be fairly high level and fairly strong. So, like, we could build a dragon mountain, basically. So I like the idea of that as kind of our final gym before you hit the Elite Four. Speaking of the Elite Four... we would need dual types for our Elite Four as well. So what types are we missing? We could also technically pull some of these out and put them in. Antiqua could work. I think Antiqua would work well for the Dark Academia town. The Antiqua super soldiers. So yeah, like, we do have 4 Elite Four types here, too. What are some other type combos that we're currently missing? We don't have Psychic, so I think Psychic should be in here somewhere. We could do a ground rock city. And we could technically pull the steel typing out and put Psychic Steel. Because Psychic resists steel. Or rather, is it the other way around? Yeah, steel resists Psychic. And then Psychic doesn't have any specific interaction with, because Psychic Steel feels like a very Elite Four sort of type combo. The other types that we're currently not using, we don't have Poison. However, poison would be... So the problem is we've basically used all of the interesting type combos here for cities. However, we could always reuse characters from certain cities anyway. Like, we could have the person from Antiqua, like that class rep who's just a sicko, be a member of the Elite Four. I feel like for the Elite Four, the types are more reflections of the characters, so we can be a bit more thematic, like Psychic Poison for Brain Rot. Psychic Poison is pretty fun. Fighting Bug, do they interact? So fighting is, if I recall, half effective on Bug, I think? I think we should have a fanfic type character for the Elite Four. Because we've got Brain Rot with Psychic Poison. Fighting Bug, I think, would work fun for an Elite Four, because we could then take some of the stronger bug types that aren't present in the Grass Bug Gym and put them towards the end of the region, which would mean we could actually put, like, some of the better bugs in. So I do think with this would sort of be like the sort of bookworm / silverfish and moths, like, you know, the bane of a library's existence type deal. Fairy Ghost for an Elite Four could be kind of fun. Go into that sort of like fairy tale / horror thematic. And I think for our last Elite Four member... You love my eyes? Why, thank you. I also have these. Ta-da! So, since you're just joining us, what we're doing currently is we got completely distracted from the game we're supposed to be streaming, and we're currently brainstorming a Pokemon region. I also have one more beautiful eye. Let me just hop over here real quick. Hello, is me. I'm tiny. I can just perch here for a second while the ad plays. So we need one more for an Elite Four member. Actually, if an ad break is currently running, I'm just gonna quickly go and use the restroom. So I will be right back, because that gives me time to do that. So I will return in just a moment. Oh, my mic was muted. Thank you for letting me know. I would have just sat here yapping for like 10 minutes without knowing. I am Burb, because I wanted to show off my other beautiful eyes. Hello. Now then, I had a great idea for our region's initial champion, at least. That was kind of creepy. What? No. No, what would... There's nothing creepy about my eyes, right? Like, these are just beautiful. You love them, right? Tell me that you love my eyes. The horse means nothing to me. The barrels cannot stop me either. I am immovable, invincible. I see everything. Oh, you love my eyes. Great. That's wonderful. I'm glad that you like them. Ow. Don't hit me. That's very, very rude. Here, we'll go with my normal beautiful eyes here. Well, of course I get squished in owl form. I'm very soft. Very plush. Now my thoughts are a little bit flat. Could you all apply a little bit of percussive maintenance to quickly return me to my normal thinking state? Ah, yep, yeah, there's one, there's two, okay. Oh, yeah. Ah, no! Too many! There were too many bunks! Now you gotta do it again! The bonking shall continue until morale improves. Genuinely, I completely forgot the thought that I was gonna have a second ago. No, wait, I can't. I only have 310 points. Soon you will be able to physically bash me over the head with a mallet like everybody else. Ow. Anyway, as I was... No, 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 no! Ah! Why was that Gulshi so slow? That was such a, like, scary moment. Should I party with this guy offering 10 million gil? You absolutely should. That's 10 million gil. Yeah, so anyway, for our champion here, right? We've got to have a Yuri trainer. And the type is just going to be, you know, all of those Pokemon. The ones with lots of tags in the places. There's my Yumi, hello. I love my wife. $169 times, nice. We're getting those numbers up. We need one more regular Elite Four member, though. And I had an idea for it, and I don't remember what it was. There were too many bonks. My brain, his, Fire Rock is a musician. Musical writing is a form of writing. Oh, we can put that here for now. I feel like that could also just be a fun side objective, though, too. What's a Pokemon without a they, them, king / queen? like, Pokemon has really been getting gender with the designs the past couple generations. Like, more and more. And I appreciate it. I like it. You wanted a fanfic writer, or would that be brain rot? Yeah, we could put the fanfic writer basically anywhere. Yeah, I think Fairy Ghost also works for, like, fanfic. Either that, or the, obviously it's the champion. The champion's just writing so much Yuri. It also makes sense that the initial champion would be a fanfiction writer, given that this is a fan region. The champion clearly very much ships the other members of the Elite Four. The champion can't actually eat a meal without, like, putting on, like, a video essay analyzing their favorite ships or whatever. Alright, so we have some stuff here. We need some more font. What's the most steampunk font? For, like, a steampunky town. Oh, wait. I have a better idea for Helvetica Town. A creepypasta town where it appears normal on the surface, but it's super haunted. I had a thought. All right, I'm listening. Psychic Steel, sci-fi writer? Ooh, that could be really cool too, though. This is just your way to make an Among Us town, isn't it, Passel? I mean, we could get rid of the Ground Rock town. Because I really like our Elite Four. We also just have, like, other side content that we could do, too. Yeah, like, Ground Rock is pretty much just already a normal town. But we have Fighting Psychic already for a town. And I like Fighting Psychic for the comic town. We could do Electric Steel for a sci-fi town. Because then you get stuff like Rotom and stuff like that. Font would be the Tron font? Is Electric... Oh, it is already used for Courier Town. So we need Steel with something here. Steel is... We already have grass. We already have ice. Steel Poison? Yeah, Steel Poison could be interesting. Steel Poison could also be, like the villain team's gimmick. Wait! Wait. My neurons, both of my neurons just clacked together, right? The villain team of the region, right? If they're Steel Poison, their gimmick could be plagiarism and like generative AI and stuff. They're stealing stuff and poisoning things. That's our villain team. That's our villain team. Because I like Steel being just Steel in the sense of theft. The font would be robot. That would be kind of funny. Fortunately, the villain team wouldn't need to necessarily have a font naming convention. We could go with something else on them. This leaves us with an open town again, though. So if we have a rock town, I mean, we could just do Fire Rock for like a rock and roll town. Right, we have Water Fire. This is hard. Because the types that we're missing in the gym are Poison, are Rock, and I think that's it, actually. Poison, Rock, and Ground. Because we have Fire for the Water Fire already. We could do that, too. We could do Steel Poison and have the villain team be based out of the same team. Poison Ground, and it's just like a Miyazaki poison swamp. Oh, no. Welcome to Blight Rock Town. I like Poison Ground, though. We could also put Poison Ground off to the side, as a thing. Okay, wait. If we do Poison Ground as Gym 7... Rock is by itself. There is Rock representation in the Elite Four, at least. But if we do Poison Ground as Gym 7, that means you would have to go through the horrible Poison Swamp to get to the awful Dragon Ice Mountain. That feels very Soulsborne. So we have Gym 1. For the rest of these, how should we escalate these? And obviously we can have little side areas and stuff. Like, I already have some side areas that I'm, like, thinking through in my brain. Flying Electric feels pretty early gym. And Water Fire feels pretty early gym. I'm thinking like this probably. Where we do Flying Electric for the second gym, because also Bird Gym being the second gym feels very classic. Ghost type could be 4, because 4 also has the connotations of death. So I think that's kind of funny. And that would mean I like this being slightly higher level. And then it would be like this. The one that warns you about the Miyazaki Swamp would be the Dark Academia Town. I like this. I like this. I think this is a very fun region concept. Now, we have another question here. We're going to need routes between the towns. I'll put this below. You can make a mind map arrow thing. That's true. This is just like a note-takey thing, though. Oh yeah, now that we know the order, we can think of themes. I do like the idea of this being an ink town. This is obviously like a fantasy novel town. And grass bug. This could be like either like a run-down library, like the sort of place where like moths have already eaten into the books and stuff. Ink like ink blotches? Yeah, sorta. But like, you can make ink traditionally like out of like charcoal and stuff like that. It also just feels like we need like a pretty standard library forest town, so like sort of like this could work. Is the swamp made of ink? It could be. So, we have now... We need just 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 4 more, We need 4 more fonts for these. What's a very standard steampunk font? Trying to think. I'm just looking some stuff up real quick. It feels a little bit weird that we don't have, like, a Times New Roman town. Um, Times New Roman could be Dragon Ice. True. We could also, like, stylize it a little bit, like Times New Roman, so it would be like Tinaroma Town. Getting a little bit more fantasy with it. It also kind of makes sense that in some ways Times New Roman is the final boss of fonts. Um, hmm. I feel okay, so like there's Montserrat is a font, right? That like is pretty like it's a cool location that the font is named for. But I don't know if it necessarily fits any of these, but it could, because I feel like a sans serif font just doesn't work for steampunk. We could do Futura for the steampunk town. Which kind of is a little bit ironic given that steampunk in some ways feels a little bit archaic. I think the bird on the windowsill in Little Witch in the Woods makes the same noise as the MapleStory jump. Grass bug could be called Calibri. Hmm. Calibri could work. Does anybody else have any ideas for it? Either that, or if we're going through this, Ariel being the first town, Times New Roman being the last town could be kind of funny too. I mean, Ariel and Calibri are basically the same font. Calibri would also fit a little bit better with Cottagecore, just because it's a little bit softer than Ariel. Font people bad to cook me for saying that? Listen, I'm literally like an educated professional graphic designer, so it's fine. I can cook me for saying that, but I'm also correct objectively. We need something for the Ink Town. Inktown be Papyrus. It could also be kind of funny to name the poison ground type Aerial Town. And a little bit of like irony there. Hmm. Trying to think. Because, like, it being a town that produces a lot of ink and stuff, it needs a special name. Kruby. Amusing, but I'm not sure. Um, hmm. Baskerville could work. What if it's the first font ever made, Textura? I do like that. All right, we've got ourselves a, like, starting setup here. We've got our gym order. We've got our typings for the gyms. We've got our Elite Four typings. Now, the next thing that we're going to need here is routes and stuff, but one thing I want to decide first, right, before anything, is what gimmicks are we bringing? Are we bringing Gigantamax? Are we bringing Mega Evolution? Are we bringing Z moves? What sort of gimmicks are we bringing here? Because we have access to, I think, all of them in Cobblemon. I think Cobblemon even supports Terastallization now. But, like, we're gonna need to decide on this. The other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna insert another table here just for some other areas, because we got Wingding Cave. We got Suspicious Building. Don't worry about that one. We've got I do like Z moves. I think Z moves are fun, even if competitively they're kind of a mess. All right, Moss Cave, Library Labyrinth. What else do we got? Because this is where we could really start branching out. This is where we could put a whole bunch of other things. Because, like, this is where all of the special stuff goes. As for what gimmicks we're using, I think Z moves are a definite one. Right, Kerning City. And our starting town... we'll start in Serif Town. I think Megas. Yeah, Z moves, Megas. Tower of Babel could be the battle tree type deal. I also like this because, like, this gives us a really nice variety of different towns. Because, like, Dark Academia, obviously, like, we can just go absolutely crazy with. A newspaper town, we could go, like, sort of, like, old-timey, but, like, in a more quaint way than the, like, old-timey parentheses extra of steampunk. Comic, we've got, like, a very, like, modern city-type deal. Helvetica with the creepypasta setup, we could go for a alarmingly normal town that's really messed up underneath. Textura, we could just do so many cool things with an ink aesthetic. Then we've got, like, the sort of decrepit, like, library, but, like, in that sort of, like, Ghibli reclaimed by nature sort of way of Calibri. In Tina Roma, we could have, like, a very Roman architecture mountain city with dragons and knights and fantasy and stuff. So, like, I think we have a really cool balance of different, like, aesthetics here, and we can add a couple non-gym cities, too, if we want. I like the idea of Terrascal because, okay, so hear me out, right? You know how these have dual type gyms? Where one type kind of like is either super effective to the other or resistant to the other? With terrestrialization, we could have some of these gyms swap around. I mean, if we kept all of the gimmicks, like, we could have, like, Gigantamax for Dragon Ice or stuff like that. But, like, I like the idea of one of the Pokemon in the gym being able to terrestrialize and swap to the other type for that gym. Could be a really cool gimmick for some of them. The other thing that we'd have here is if I add a column to the right, we'd have our gimmicks for these, where, like, the little challenge that we go. I think for Steampunk, that has to be the double battle one, because you need to have water and fire at the same time to get steam. I think for comics, Z-Move could be really fun as, like, their main battle thing, but I don't think that constitutes, like, a gimmick. Also, I think for the comic book town, that's where the villain team needs to be based out of, just thematically speaking. Like, you can't have a comic book town without a secret supervillain setup, you know? It being Gym 5 also kind of puts the villain team's main hideout sort of at the solid center of your journey. Because you're more than halfway through the gym challenge, but you still have the Elite Four, so you're essentially at kind of the halfway point of your journey when you're hitting the comic book town. And I think that's a good point to kind of ramp up the villain team stuff. These are all different things that we could, I think for this one, this would be your, standard, like... I don't even... Is there, like, a specific, name for this, like, type of quest? Where, like... Think like Ocarina of Time, where you have to, like, trade one thing for another thing for another thing for another thing for another thing. Or, like, RuneScape, where you have one small favor, where, he's like, oh yeah, I just want you to do this, and then you go to the other person. They're like, oh yeah, I've got that, but I need you to do this for me. So you go to the other person and kind of just go down. But, like, delivery quest, I guess, or bartering quest. There we go. But I think for the town of Courier, that would be a fun thing, where you gotta kind of bounce between people and, like, deliver stuff. For the comic town, we could have this be the, like, parkour challenge slash jump quest, because it's a more modern thing, and I think, like, superheroes, you know, you've got the sort of, like, high-flying acrobatic stuff. Um... For Dragon Ice, I think your gimmick should just be, like, an actual quest, like a full-on fantasy quest type deal. You gotta go get the MacGuffin, you gotta do something like that. Like, go into the scary dragon caves, or, like, climb to the peak of the mountain and get, like, a crystal, or, like, pull the sword from the stone or whatever type stuff. Yeah, you have to go and throw the ring into the volcano to get the thing to prove that you're, like, a hero to come down and do the, do the gym. For the Ink Town, I think it should be a crafting quest, because this is Minecraft. So I think what you should have to do is you should have to actually go out and gather, through whatever means, the materials to make something, and then you turn that in for your entrance to the gym. Yeah, you have to go all over the swamp and get the stuff. So the mod list is going to be another thing that we're going to need to figure out. I don't think we'll do that this stream. I think we'll do that next time, because there's certain things that we're going to want. Like, we'll probably want create Steam and Rails so that we can have trains. There's probably decoration mods we're going to want. But the thing is I want to keep this, as this is an adventure map, right? I don't want this to be like a massive, like, 400 mod thing that takes, like, 2 hours to load. I want to keep it pretty standard. Not like standard necessarily, but you know what I mean. Like, I want it to be something that loads in, like, non-astronomical time. Dark Academia being a quiz could be a fun one. And I think a quiz is a pretty easy gimmick to, like, incorporate. Especially because, like, with the ability to add NPCs with, like, you know, talking and stuff, this could be where we could be really evil and ask questions about the world. You know, have people been paying attention on their journey through? Like, what is the color on the, you know, sign at the news building in Courier? Far's library needs you to clean up cobwebs or something? Yeah, I think that could work. Cleaning, maybe? I do think creepypasta should be a mystery of some sort. Another thing I was thinking of for the creepypasta is, at first, it seems like there's no gimmick, but you haven't actually cleared the gym. You've gone through the seemingly normal gym and then have to go through the horror gym. But a whodunit could work really well, too, as, like, a mystery. Or maybe with the creepypasta one, you're investigating things around time. Or around town. Like, you have to go and kind of dig through and find the things wrong in town. So we've got our gimmicks. Our actual generation gimmicks. I think Z-Moves, Megas, and Terastal is fine. At that point, though, the only ones that we're really missing is Gigantamax. So, do we just have all of them? Question mark? What about... Thank you for the follow. Because, like, obviously for the gyms and the cities and stuff, we don't need to use all of them, but the players could potentially use all of them. Or maybe we just, like, make it, because I know they did this in the anime during the, Champions, like, Champions 8, where all of the gimmicks were an option, but you were only allowed to use one per battle. Where, like, if you used a Z move or if you used a Mega Evolution, you were now no longer allowed to use the other gimmicks. And then the big reveal at the end was when Ash fought Leon. Leon was like, yeah, no, you can use all of the gimmicks against me. Go all out. Use everything. I think it can be done, and even if it can't, we could just kind of soft enforce that one. Because, like, I'd want to stream people's progress through the gym challenge anyway, so it's like, you know, I'd probably be watching while people are doing gym challenges. Yeah, like, I think an honor system works well enough for something like this. I'm not too concerned. Like, if people are out in the world, like, grinding random Pokemon using all of the gimmicks, that's whatever. Gym challenges and stuff like that will probably have somebody present for it. That does mean that each Elite Four gets one. That's cool, actually. So... let's do this. I think the Bookworm one obviously needs Z moves. Because I think that that's very funny. Because you have sort of a fighting bug. That's just Kamen Rider. For... who should get the Mega Pokemon? Who should get the Gigantamax? And who should get the Terastal? Yeah, there's also Fighting Bug Mega Beast, so very Alola. Like, we could just give them Mega Heracross, and then that's that. Like... for Brain Rot, I think maybe Gigantamax? Because it tends to be something that just escalates. Which means for this we have Terastal and Mega Evolution. Or... because if we do this for Fighting Bug and give them Mega Heracross... because Henshin is also very, Kamen Rider. So this would leave us with Z moves and... Terastal. Yeah, I'd say Z moves for this, and then that leaves Terastalization for the Horror Fairy Tale, which crystals and stuff kind of works out for that anyway. And then the Yuri champion could be allowed to just actually use all four. Like, she could just have a Mega Evolution, a Gigantamax, a Z move, and a Terastalization as an option. Because I think that would be very funny. She just rolls up with her team of, because also if she's going to be the Yuri champion, this means she's probably going to be having a whole bunch of the, like, quote-unquote, like, waifu-mon. Like, probably has a Gardevoir to be, like, Mega. Probably has Tsarina. Probably has, like, Lilligant, Lopunny, etc., etc., etc. Like, a very just Yuri-coded team. You could have the Gigantamax be Hatterene, because that has, like, a specific form for that. The Z move could go to, like, Tsarina, because it's the same generation. Etc., etc., etc. So I think that could be a fun setup for the champion, too, and that also makes the champion really scary. Right, so we have all of the gimmicks. As for the towns, we have all of the gimmicks. We have all of the towns. We have the villain team. And the villain team being Steel Poison, generative AI, plagiarism stuff. Like, obviously, their goal is just to kind of, like, automate and optimize the training of Pokemon. You know, treating Pokemon just as things to be just super optimized down, or essentially machined into form, rather than being, you know, your fun little partners that you go on adventures with. Now, we will need to decide what Pokemon we're going with. We've already got our towns. Streamer League, we'll figure that out after, because eventually we'll have other people hop in. Routes and caves we can figure out as we go, so we'll still need to do routes. Hello, Charm. We'll still need to do Pokemon spawns, which, this I think is going to be the next stream, where we're just going to go through the entire list of Pokemon, just all, I don't know, 450 trillion of them, or however many there are now. And we're going to decide what ones are and aren't making the cut. Battle Subway on Create Train? We were probably going to do a Tower of Babel type deal. So, Charm, since you weren't here, I'll fill you in on what we have. Our region name is going to go up to a vote. We've got the Virtua region because of VTuber. We've got Libera because of books. We've got Fontaine because all of the towns are named after fonts. Scripta for the same reason, and Velia because Vellum. All of our gyms are dual type. And they are opposed dual types. Fontaine is a town in Genshin. Axe that one. You know what? Good call. But yeah, so we have all of our gyms. They're all named after a different font. Except for the starting town, which is just Serif Town. They've all got a different theme. They've all got their types. And they've all got their gimmicks. Then we have our Elite Four, which are a little bit less, like, they're not tied to fonts specifically. But each of them is going to use a different gimmick, and then the champion is going to use all of the gimmicks. Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Cobblemon has all 4 main gimmicks between Mega Evolution, Gigantamax, Terastallization, and Z-moves. Because you're the Cobblemon expert here, so I'm going to be leaning on you a lot during this project. I hope that's okay. Cobblemon Mega Showdown does. Good. Okay, so as long as it's, like, available as, like, an add-on, that's fine. Also question. For the gimmicks, is there a way for us to limit people to using 1 gimmick per fight? Like, not necessarily like, oh, this fight can only use Z-moves, but, like, if you use a Z-move, you can't Mega Evolve. I think so. Okay, that's something we can look into. Because for the champion, I'd like to let the champion use all of them. But for everybody else, I'd like to keep it as just a 1 thing. I think for another area that we could go, so you know how you have, like, the Dream World in Platinum, and you have, like, the Mega Dimensions in Sun and Moon? We could have, like, the sort of, like, literary world where you go into stories or whatever. We could also have it be the type of thing where you have to pick one when you start. That's true, too. Like, I'd like to give people the option to switch if they want, but maybe it could just be, like, an item-type deal, where you can just cash it in. Like, you can go cash your Z bracelet in for, like, you know, like, a Mega Ring or whatever at any time. So, like, you would have to go and swap your thing out, but you wouldn't necessarily have to... Did I hear which? You did hear which, but as you might notice, we're a little bit completely and utterly off topic here. We're designing a Pokemon region to build in Minecraft using the Cobblemon mod. I know, I love Mistcraft. Mistcraft is so good. Just, I think somebody was making a spiritual successor to it. I'm not sure, though. Custom Pokemon is still a question mark. I think we can add them via Blockbench, but I'd like to keep those to a minimum for now, just because that adds a lot of workload that isn't necessarily put towards building the region, which should be our primary focus for now. Oh, my wife texted me. One sec. I have to text her back and send little kissies. Off topic on Twitch, impossible? I mean, we did change it to just chatting, so it's fine. We're technically on topic. Oh no, I got a sneeze. I survived. I did it. I snows and didn't explode. I'm trying to think. What other things, because I feel like there's some critical thing that we're missing here. Like some, like, almost like surface level thing to a Pokemon region that I'm just not thinking of. How about a daycare? We'll definitely have like a Pokemon daycare. I would imagine that it probably is either encountered early in like Calibri, or you run into it in like maybe like Courier or something. A water slash ocean section. We'll probably have that too. Cause ooh, a safari zone could be cool. But that's sort of what I was thinking of with the literary. Actually, the literary world could work as our Safari Zone-esque thing. And that would let us include Pokemon that wouldn't necessarily fit into any of the other areas of the region. Like, here and there. Like, if there's a Pokemon that we really want to have in, but, like, can't find a good place to put them, that could be a good place to put them, is, like, in a little story. I don't know how we're gonna use the, like, nether and stuff yet. We do have a moss cave filled with, like, little buggies and stuff. I guess for now, while I try to remember the big core thing that I'm forgetting, we'll see what, like... What other areas can you think of that we should have here? I'll put daycare down here as a thing just so that we remember that it's here. A volcano slash deep forest. There's probably a fairy ghost, or rather, at the cottagecore, that's sort of like a regular forest. Oh, right. Thank you. Legendaries or something we need to figure out. That was the thing that I went to think through. For legendaries, we have options for these. We could make legendaries a one-time only thing, in the sense that, like, if you're the person who catches Deoxys, you're the person who has Deoxys. Like, there's no respawning Deoxys. It's not something that just everybody gets. Like, that's a potential option there, in the sense that, like, that gives legendary Pokemon that feeling of being legendary. But that also does give significant advantage to anybody who catches the legendary Pokemon early, especially if it's, like, one of the stronger legendaries, like Rayquaza or Deoxys or something. Alternatively, we could have them be repeat availability thing tied to just side quests, so, like, everybody who completes the Deoxys side quest or whatever gets one. But then that leads to the potential problem of team homogenization of you just have these really strong legendary Pokemon. I saw a previous streamer region thing where legendaries need a DM side quest with a cooldown. Yeah, like, that's sort of what I'm thinking, is, like, legendaries probably feel more interesting as a unique thing. Just because, like, otherwise we just see a lot of people running it around with, like, teams of legendaries. It also gives us the option to be very picky and choosy with what legendaries we introduce and where. Yeah, like, Ultra Beasts and stuff like that. Like, I'm fine with, like, things like people just being able to have, like, a Bulicephalon on their team or whatever. I feel like if they're respawning, only letting people have one legendary might be nice. We could do that, too. That's another option. We could just have a legendary clause of you're only allowed to own one legendary Pokemon. But, like, legendary Pokemon can have duplicates or whatever. Maybe they spawn like once a week randomly with a Fate Chain. Another thing that I could potentially do is just make those into individual streams. Like, if a legendary is going to show up, just make an event out of it. But I think, in general, I like the idea of legendaries being heavily limited. I think it's more interesting that way from a gameplay point. I think it gives us more design options. Whoops, I dropped a pen because I'm sitting here swirling a pen around. I think it gives us more options for, like, a design standpoint. I think it gives us more options from a, like, stream standpoint. I think it leads to more diverse teams of more interesting Pokemon, and just in general feels like it's probably the way to go. So we'll do stuff like that. Maybe I'll hide a couple legendaries while we're building the region via, like, side quests you can complete, and there will just be one copy of the item and you can give it or whatever. My only issue with that is in terms of team comp, stuff like Basculegion or Smeargle are better than 99% of legendaries. The thing is, though, is we don't necessarily need those Pokemon to be readily available. Though I do think Smeargle being in the book region is kind of required. Basculegion doesn't necessarily need to be. But, like, again, like, with starters and stuff, too, like, there's always the options to just have things just not necessarily be available. Or even certain Pokemon, like, people thought Rotom was a legendary for the longest time. Even though it just strictly isn't. Same with, like, Volcarona, because there was only the one Volcarona. Like, we could just have those be limited things. Because, like, I would be fine with the concept of Incineroar being treated as a legendary. And then you just have the one person who has Incineroar. This will also come through when we're deciding, like, the actual Pokemon list. Because the other thing is, right, with Cobblemon, with the configs, can't we edit, like, movesets and stats and stuff? Like, we could technically manually balance a couple extreme outliers if we wanted to bring them more into line. Like, we could just delete certain moves that make them incredibly busted, or, like, certain weaker Pokemon, we could raise their stats a little bit to make them more interesting. Because, like, I love a lot of bug-type Pokemon, and I love a lot of grass-type Pokemon, and their picks for, like, moves and stats just tend to be absolutely abysmal. So, like, we could always tune those a little bit if we need. So, like, I'm not too necessarily worried about, like, oh, this Pokemon is a competitive menace, because those are things that we can fix in post. Thinking. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna use the restroom again. I'm gonna leave you all with another question again. What is your favorite Pokemon? I asked this at the start of stream, but most people weren't here. What's your favorite Pokemon that you'd want to see in the region, and why? And you can leave that for me, and we'll discuss that when I get back from the restroom. I am back. I speed ran a little bit. I did still wash my hands, though, so we're good. Alchemy is really cool. I like Alchemy a lot, too. Same with Tinkaton. Scolipede will be a fun one that I think definitely should end up in the region. Let's just put a faves section here. The Waddle. Sapling has Alchemy. You can also put 2 if you want. 2 or 3. Like, basically, what are some Pokemon that you think are essential to the region? That, like, either are there because they're your favorites or because you think they'd be very thematically interesting. Like, let's get a couple short list Pokemon in here. I think Sewaddle's very fun for, like, the early bug gym. I also think another one that we need is Hoot Hoot should be our Route 1 bird. Like, A, because it's an owl and has my glasses. B, because I think with the ability to modify things via a data pack, we could actually make Hoot Hoot usable. And the Route 1 bug being Sewaddle, the Route 1 bird being Hoot Hoot, what should our Route 1 rodent be? What's the most, like, book Route 1 rodent type deal? It doesn't necessarily need to be a rodent either, like... But you know what I mean, like our Route 1 normal type, like our Rattata or stuff. Because I feel like there's good options here for this, but I'm drawing blanks. If there's no other ones, we could go with, because my old friend Neru, their favorite Pokemon was Skitty. Could always do that as an option. Just because I'm always nostalgic for old friends, and, you know. Alright, so Route 1 bird, normal bug. We've got Hoot Hoot, Sewaddle, and Skitty. Which I think is a pretty fun combo, actually. But what are other options we could have just to see? I'm just looking through the list of normal type Pokemon right now. I think I like Hoot Hoot. And Deerling, I think, should be near the, like, cottagecore town. Because that just feels very, like, appropriate for that. Celesteela is my favorite Pokemon, so Celesteela is going in no matter what, even if I have to, like, manually, aggressively shoehorn in Ultra Beasts. Because, like, we could always get Ultra Beasts from, like, the sort of, like, literary world thing. I think Ultra Beast should probably fit into, like, mostly, like, the pseudo-legendary category of being very late attainable things. Thank you for the follow! I think Mimikyu should also be shortlisted, just because we can't have, like, a creepypasta town without a Mimikyu. What are some other classic creepypasta Pokemon? Actually, wait, this raises another question. What should our limit be? Like, where should we draw the line of how many Pokemon we're putting in the region by default? What are the normal regional deck sizes? So that's probably a good place to start. The Alola Pokedex had 400. Galar had about 400. Hisui had about 250. Paldea had about 400. So we're probably looking at around 300 to 400 Pokemon. So, we'll save that mostly for next stream, because I do think that in its own right is just going to be a whole thing. Because if we have 300 or 400, right? We have 8 towns, though obviously they have routes and stuff between them. That would mean, basically, for each town, we'd be looking at somewhere in the realm of around 50 attainable Pokemon between each town. So, like, that would be counting the town, the surrounding area, and, like, the connecting routes. Cubone is a creepypasta regular, so, I think Drifloon works well with the, like, very normal, well-adjusted seeming town that's secretly messed up type deal that we have going for it. Because then you have, like, nice, happy little balloons that just happen to kidnap and eat children. Okay, wait. Hold up. I'm trying to think. I'm gonna be saying I'm trying to think a lot during this planning process. What other... Because, like, Pokemon, we can do that another time, right? That can be next time stream. What do we want to be... I completely lost my train of thought. Oh my goodness. Oh, right. For the region scale, right? How big do we want things to be? Like, essentially, like, how abstracted do we want these little cities to be? Because this isn't necessarily a thing that's important for the right this second, but, like, this does determine when we start building things properly and start mapping out the region, like, how much space we'll need to allot. Also, with older Pokemon gens, you know how they had, like, their region map where it was just, like, the routes and stuff between? With Minecraft, we both can and can't strictly do that. Like, our routes don't need to be straight lines. What are we doing for the space in between the routes? Like, are we just building the region as a big open region and the routes will just be, like, more natural connecting areas with potentially less traversable areas between? Are we going to do things like invisible walls to kind of, or like natural barriers to keep people from going out of bounds, so to speak? Do we even want to strictly observe a normal traditional gym order? We could technically, I think, set things up so that it's based off of the number of badges that people have. I think there should be roads between them, but players don't necessarily need to stay on them, like Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, I'm sort of thinking Scarlet Violet would probably be our best analog for this in terms of, like, layout. Hi, Abby! How are you? We're making a Pokemon region to build in Minecraft. Quickly, B, what's your favorite Pokemon? Or what are your two favorite Pokemon? Because everybody gets two. If it helps influence your decision at all, the Pokemon region we're working on is based off of books and writing and libraries and stuff. All of the towns are named after fonts. All of them are dual type, and we've got the types right here. But you need to worry about that. You don't need to strictly stick to the types. I just want to make sure everybody's favorite Pokemon, to some degree, is put into this region. So everybody can at least have one of their favorites. Ah, Mindfoo's really good. I love Mineshout, too. Okay, so... pick one other if you've got. Can be anything. I feel like that should be straightaway routes that can't be broken by players, but the empty spaces in between can be where players make homes and stuff, where natural barriers, of course. Poltegeist! Poltegeist is a really good, Poltegeist could work really well both in Antiqua with the Dark Academia, and could work really well in Helvetica, too. So I think Poltegeist is a good pick, because it can be used in multiple towns. So yeah, we could do like a wild area type deal where players could build whatever, but what I was thinking is potentially instead allowing for basically building lots, sort of like secret bases and stuff, where you can just, like, it's a specific area where you're allowed to build, and you can sort of just get your house and build it into the place. But a wild area could work too. We could use, like, an alternate dimension. So, like, we do have, like, stuff like the Nether and stuff, but it's fairly trivial to add extra dimensions and stuff. So, like, we could just have a free-for-all build area. But yeah, like, I do like the idea of, like, chunk claim and people building in, because this also then adds to the benefit of, like, people, you know, can kind of feel like they're more a part of the world in that way. While it also still keeps things kind of more within the structured constraints of an adventure mode region. I think there should totally be some housing plots in towns too. I agree. Like, I like housing, even if we don't end up going with like, or rather, even if we do end up going with a sort of like open wild area where people can just build and break blocks and mine and do all that freely. I think we'll still have plots available in cities and stuff, like regardless, just for people to build in. So there is one thing that I also want to figure out to progression wise is like, because it's Minecraft, technically there is nothing strictly stopping you from immediately running to one of the high level towns, catching a super high level Pokemon, and then just steamrolling your way backwards through the gym challenge. So I do think we should have some form of progression block there, unless we're doing something where like your gym challenge gets changed depending on how many badges you already have. And then this just becomes more of the intended gym order. Because, like, in terms of catching Pokemon and stuff, that we could just pretty easily, in wherever like the build area is, just disable Pokemon spawns or make it so that like they're not anything that wouldn't be attainable elsewhere. Like, we could structure those areas so that there's no way to sort of quote unquote like farm progression. But like, I would want it to be something a little bit more on the structured side. So I'm trying to think if there's a good way for us to include like HMs or stuff like that to sort of allow access to areas. I'm pretty sure that there's probably a way to do this in Minecraft, but is there a way for us to kind of limit the areas people have access to based on their gym badges? Like, if they clear a gym, they get a gym badge and suddenly they're allowed to catch Pokemon in an area? So, like, if they just wanted to go exploring and walk around and whatever, they could, but they wouldn't necessarily be able to catch things from way later. Because then that could solve most of the problems there of just, like, you can't go and catch the level, 70 Salamence out near Tinaroma, like, by just running forward and chucking Pokeballs at it and hoping for the lucky catch. You'd have to actually have progressed to the point where, like, you'd be allowed to go and catch it. But you could just manually walk to any town you wanted and such, just for the sake of exploring. At least assuming you could reach it through, like, other ways. Trying to think if there's any other things that we would need. I am going to add another new note. Let's get our Pokemon decks. Is there a way for me to just drag this down markup-wise? Probably, but... there's almost certainly a better way to do this. Oh, wait. I accidentally skipped to 4 instead of 3. No, there has to be a better way to format this than just having a long list like this. Because this would be just horrifically unreadable. But we can figure that out by the time we get to the actual Pokedex thing next time. Because we're going to want around 400 for our regional decks. And then this also, because of the nature of portals, trains, etc., if we ever want to expand and add more things, we always have the option to do that, but it's more difficult for us to sort of take away Pokemon after the fact, because people would already have, like, caught them, stuff like that. And I don't want to create, like, situations where you have, like, legacy Pokemon of, like, this was a thing that was available only during this time. So, eventually we can expand and add more Pokemon as we go, but keeping it at the 300 to 400 range is probably our safest bet for now. And even with just the ones that we have here, like this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, plus their evolutions. So we have like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21. I forget if Deerling has... if the multiple forms count as multiple things, but we'll just say 20... 21... however many EVs there are. Like... we'll just say, like, up to, like, 27? And then 28... and then 29, like, and then 30, 31. Like, we're already almost 10% of the way into our Pokedex with just these, you know? So, we'll want to kind of, you know, be picky and choosy with stuff. Because we have the opportunity for custom balancing, I think also it would be fun to have some lesser used Pokemon, like, get their appreciation here. Also, that leads to some fun discovery of, like, we wouldn't just have, you know, people who are a bit more versed in, like, competitive Pokemon. Because, like, I used to play Pokemon fairly competitively. I know a couple of my other friends also have played Pokemon, like, at a competitive level. But, like, I think it would be fun to sort of throw them off their game a little bit, and some of their conventional wisdom wouldn't function quite how they expect it to. Where, like, oh, now Noctowl actually has stats worth using. Fortunately, we can avoid certain meta nightmares. Like, we can just say no to, you know, like, Calyrex and Urshifu with its ability to punch through protects or things like that. Like, we could get rid of some other things. And, like, given that it is both a singles and a doubles battle region, like, it'll throw people's wisdom off in a sense anyway, because they'll probably want to be able to build for both. I don't know how we'll do EV and IV training and stuff like that. Like, that's something we'll figure out as we go. Yeah, Cobblemon also doesn't have every move fully implemented. Like, it's gonna be kind of its own balancing region regardless. So, like, we'll have some fun with that. So, in general, the main point that I'm trying to wind my way towards there with that is that you don't necessarily need to worry about is this Pokemon good or is this Pokemon competitively interesting? That's something we can fix as we do the project. What you should think about with what Pokemon you want to... Because this will be next Friday, we'll build the Pokedex. What you should think about with this is this Pokemon interesting to the region thematically? Is this a Pokemon that I like? Is this a Pokemon that I wish was cool? Yeah, like, Galvantula is a great example of, like, this Pokemon kinda sucks, but it shouldn't. It should be cool. Or Tinkaton's another example of this Pokemon should probably be better than it is, given how much it's a cool Pokemon. Like, don't necessarily worry about is the Pokemon going to be balanced, is basically what I'm saying. We can always do that as we go. We want Pokemon that are interesting and cool for the region with, like, the towns that we have here. And I think for our region names, given that we've gone for a much more book-oriented one, these are probably going to be our 3 name options here. So I'm going to put region name. And I'll put a poll here. This isn't going to be the final decider. I just want to get, like, a rough idea and see if there's any specific name that is super far front-leading here. Like, if there's any that's, like, super-duper highly preferred. So, go ahead and vote in the poll. It won't determine the name yet, but... I also won't say which one I'm leaning towards, just because I don't want to skew it one way or another. There's no additional, like, novel votes on this either. Like, you can just cast your vote. I'll put one up in the Discord, too, after this. Which, let me just quickly plug that via the links command. Because the Discord and my Blue Sky are the easiest ways to know if I'm going live, because I'll always be doing going live posts in the Discord. Should there be a guideline of only one out of very similar Pokemon? Like, since we have Deerling/Sawsbuck, we don't need Stantler unless somebody wants it? I don't think we need a hard and fast rule for that. But I do think it should be something that's kept in mind of, like, is this niche already being filled? We probably don't need it filled again. Only one Pikachu clone, make it Togedemaru? Only one Pikachu clone, it's Mimikyu. No Pikachu in the region. A region where Pikachu is just non-existent, and in Helvetica they love Mimikyu. Mimikyu is an upgrade over Pikachu. I love Mimikyu. Such a good Pokemon. I meant to send the electric rodent in any gen. It should be Pachirisu. And we just give it Draco Meteor. It has gained too much power. Pachirisu. I think Hypno is another one that tends to show up in a lot of creepypasta. For the champion, we have Gardevoir. We already mentioned Heracross as being in. We already mentioned Sarina, Patarine. Ditto. What are some other interesting ones that we need in here? So, Delibird, right? Delibird feels kind of like a natural fit for Courier. But I don't know. Are there going to be other starters? Like, are we going to have... Slacking could be interesting. Typhlosion could also have, like, a good opportunity to be good. But at the same time, I'm trying to think of ones that are, like, 100% guaranteed in the region. For Kerning City, we're going to have bats. We need Zubat. I think the Zubat line also is overdue for its chance to actually be good. What kind of fish do we want? That's a good question. Finneon and Lumineon kinda are cool Pokemon that kinda suck, so that kinda works. We could buff them up a little bit. Wishy-Washy is another one that deserves to be good. I like how we're sort of building the Pokedex here anyway, but I can't help myself. I think Lilligant is fun for being in the cottagecore town. Another Pokemon I wish was, like, better than it is. We have to put a Mungus in for Passel. Like, I think it's legally required. Also, Amoonguss, as we know, is a Pokemon that champions trans rights. So, gets to live in our Pokemon region. Let's add... Jolteon, Flareon, Vaporeon, Sylveon, Umbreon, Espeon. Am I forgetting one? There's the original three. There's Umbreon and Espeon. So we could do Octillery, or we could do Grapploct. But the thing is given that we have Kerning City here as a joke, I do think that we should have all of the Kerning City, like, monsters represented a little bit. So, we'll do Octillery or Grapploct. I personally think Octillery is a little bit more interesting. So, I'll say Octillery. We need something for the Wraith. In Kerning City. What are some ghost Pokemon that deserve to be better than they are? Banette, 100%. So that would be, Shuppet, Banette, I think Miss Magius is one that deserves to be better, too. We've already got Sinisty and Poltegeist. Ooh, Grafaiai is a good pick. I forgot Grafaiai existed. I think Smeargle also has to be in the Ink Zone. So, let's see. So we'd have Tinkatink, we'd have Tinkatuff, we'd have Tinkaton. Sewaddle evolves into Leaveney. There's no intermediary form, is there? No, there is. Swadloon. We'd have Skitty and Delcatty. So, what's our count at so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. Grimer and Muck. So 50, 51. So we're at 51. We're over 10% of our Pokedex already. But I think we have some good options here. We can also, like, for certain niches like bird Pokemon, like, we can put a couple more birds in. There's more than one bird in the world. Like, I think Pidgeotto, and Pidgeot, because one of my friends very, very much likes the Pidge line. So I'll put Pidgey in there. I'll put Munchlax and Snorlax in there just because another one of my friends really likes them. Legendaries I won't necessarily count against this because we're gonna not have our legendaries separate yet. What other Pokemon exist? Yeah. The AI baddies. Paradox Pokemon. You know what? In that case, if we have Paradox Pokemon, this means Delibird can go in, and we give them the awful robot Delibird that's a competitive menace. We also have Ralts, we have Kirlia, we have Gallade, and we have, Paradox. What's the Paradox Gardevoir called? Iron Valiant? What other Paradox Pokemon do we got here? If we already have a Mungus, Brute Bonnet could go in. So there's Steel Poison. Iron Bundle is Ice Water. Fairy Fighting. Maybe we'll give, like, their lieutenants or whatever some of the Paradox Pokemon, because the Paradox Pokemon tend to be pretty strong. And that would allow us to kind of break from the normal tradition. So, you know how, like, Team Rocket, for example, uses Ekans, Coughing, and, like, Zubat is their main things, right? For Steel Poison, what should they use for the most part? Like, what should their generic Pokemon be for their grunts? What is the most AI-generated Pokemon? Okay, wait. Trubbish is good. God, I hate Orthworm. So we could do Clink Clang and Clink Clang. I think Porygon 2 and Porygon Z do have to be put there. Yeah, Litwick, Lampent, Chandelure. As for Poison-type Pokemon, we already have Muck, so we do technically have that as an option there. Coughing and Wheezing work for, like, air pollutants, but I like Trubbish is their Poison-type one. Looking at other poison Pokemon. We'd also have Venipede up here. Whirlipede. Oh, Ditto, obviously, yeah. So we'd add Ditto in here. This has become a very disorganized list. But that's okay. I can always sort that later. Zoroa and Zoroark maybe for like a lieutenant. And Iron Moth also. I think we'd have Volcarona in here, and what's the fuzzy little baby form of Volcarona? I forget. Larvesta, thank you. Because what I'm going to need to do with this eventually is I want to give us a balance of types, because, like, we still need ice Pokemon. We have no ice Pokemon in here. Like, we're lacking on psychic Pokemon, we're lacking on fire Pokemon, we're lacking on electric types. We need to actually fill our types out a little bit. Actually, that's a good question. How many types are there in Pokemon? 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 18 types roughly. So assuming that we are going to go for like a roughly even distribution of types, which I don't think is necessarily the case, that would give us roughly 22 Pokemon of each type. Like, I don't think we necessarily need to go for an even distribution, just because, like, obviously there's a whole lot fewer dragon Pokemon than there are, like, normal Pokemon, for example. But I do think that means, like, we don't necessarily need 50 Pokemon of one type, when, like, another type only has, like, 4 at the time. Actually, there's one other column I want to add here. Add column to the right. Ace Pokemon. What do we want each gym's ace Pokemon to be? These are things that will almost certainly change some of them here. Like, this doesn't need to be set in stone, but I want to get a rough idea. Of, like, what we'd be doing for these. What's the most superhero Pokemon? The Dolphin? Is the Dolphin the most comic book Pokemon? Palafin and Finizen, that's it. So I think that should be for that one. What is the most cottagecore Pokemon? Lilligant? Well, then again, there's already a Lilligant on the Champions team. What do we got for Grass-type Pokemon? Lurantis could be pretty good. Or we could do Appleton. Appleton's pretty cottagecore. It's literally a pie. And this is like an early gym. Because this is the first gym, so we can actually go pretty low for this. Like, we don't even need it to be a final form. I got a quick ad. What we on? We're figuring out just some initial snowballing ace Pokemon for the gyms. Because I think like Finizen works really well for the comics. It's literally a comic book superhero. Is Finizen fighting type, or is Finizen just pure water? I didn't even look. Because they do need to be of the type. Nope, it's literally pure water. So maybe not for that. We could do Hawlucha? Hawlucha's pretty, like, masked hero. Grasscloak Wormadam for the first ace. Wormadam. Hawlucha. For the normal Ghost Gym, I feel like we need to have something special for it. Hisui and Zoroark is very, creepypasta aligned. And is normal Ghost. Like, it matches both types of the gym, which is pretty good. Not that we need to match both types of the gym. But, like, it's nice to have something on that front. I'm trying to think if we have any Steam Pokemon. I don't know if we do. I mean, there's Volcarona, or not Volcarona, there's I forget the name of it. It's the legendary or the mythical that has water, fire. Volcanion. But that's a legendary. And the water fire gym is pretty early. It's the third gym. What do we got for fire types? Torkoal could be a good option. I'm just looking through fire types real quick, seeing what we have. Water Fire is Gym 3. So we don't need something crazy for it. We could do Torkoal, we could do Colossal, for the Dragon Ice Gym, what would we want? Because the thing is there is the Baxcalibur line, but I hate the Baxcalibur line. It's also a little bit of, like, a menace, so that would be one that we would definitely have to balance. I'm thinking maybe Kommo-o, because Kommo-o is bad. It's not very good. It's a pseudo-legendary. It deserves to be good. And is very, like, dragon, but also very knight. Simisear Simipour combo for the Water Fire too? Oh no, it's the return of the, I forget their names, but they're the, like, waiter slash, like, chef brother trio. Yeah, like, we'll need to figure out the gym teams eventually anyway, because, again, Aurorus might be fun in the Dragon Ice lineup. Ooh, I like that, too. Because that's also, like, another Pokemon that just is kind of undervalued. For Flying Electric, I feel like it needs to be a flying Pokemon, given that it's a delivery. Or maybe a... it's a tier 2 town. Doduo could be fun. We could also just make it like Pidgeot. Because this is the second gym. We'd want it to be a fairly, maybe even just a second form. Maybe Pidgeotto? Thunder's pretty hefty to be running into in a second gym, though. Oh, speaking of thunder, that was just some big thunder outside. Did y'all hear that? Did my mic pick that up? That was kind of loud. Anyway, maybe Pelipper, maybe Pidgeotto. Ooh, Chatot's a good one, too. Poison Ground, I think Grafaiai is, or Smeargle should be the ace for this one. Electric Bird from Scarlet Violet. Oh, the Zappy Bird. What's its name? It's, I know the one you're talking about, but I don't remember the name of it. Kilowattrel, yeah. Alright, so the main one we'd need is the Dark Fairy, Dark Academia type. Aromatisse could be a fun option. Alchemy could be a fun option. Hatterene could be an option. Mimikyu, unfortunately, doesn't fit the typing of the town. What do we got for dark-type Pokemon? Absol, maybe? I kinda like Aromatisse as the potential starting ace here. Obviously, again, these are all workshopped. We'll figure these out as we go. But I just wanted to get them somewhat jotted down here. But I think we've made some good starting progress. On Friday, I want us to... Because, again, we're not going to start building yet. We're not even going to figure out the mods yet. Because in order to figure out what mods we'll need to figure out what city types we're making beyond these. Like, we'll need to figure out routes. We'll need to figure out all that sort of stuff, right? Like, we'll need a whole bunch of information to know what we'll need to know what we can build with. So, next week, I think our main goal, like, next week as in on Friday, will be to go and work on the Pokedex specifically. I'll figure out a good way to format it. I'll get us all 400 of our Pokedex slots, give or take. And I'll fill in all the stuff that we have here already, right? Like all of this just huge mess of stuff. And then we can fill in the rest of the Pokedex as a blank. And once we have our full working Pokedex, then we can, you know, figure out the routes. And, you know, where we're placing stuff, what spawns where, what spawns when. Maybe we should figure out some of the routes alongside at the same time, just because, like, I think that would be a good way for us to figure out with the Pokedex. You know, some routes will be inspired by the Pokemon that are on it. Other Pokemon will just be something that we'll have to find a route for. Anyway, it's a little Witch in the Wood stream. Woohoo! Yay, we did it. We played the video game. See, we're doing it. We're playing the video game. The game that the video game video game. Let's see who's live to raid. We could also have our own regional variant of Rowlet as a Dark Fairy type. That could be fun. Again, for regional variants and stuff like that, I need to learn Blockbench better before I do that. Like, And I'll need to, like, figure out just in general kind of how a lot of the custom stuff goes. Wait, Charm, who is that? Type me their name, like, in Discord. We can do that. I'm always down for occasionally raiding somebody new who I haven't raided before. Oh, wait, you meant Moriko. Yeah, we'll just go to Moriko. There is nobody new. I should hit Mori up about this project anyway. Chen might be fun as a backtrack later Pokemon in the Forest Zone. Yeah, like legendaries, I think will probably reserve maybe 15 to 20 slots for legendaries at the end of the Pokedex. Pseudo legendaries similarly will probably only have maybe 2 or 3 pseudo legendary lines in. And Ultra Beast will have maybe 3 or 4 of them. Oop. We fell asleep standing up. Whoopsie. Anyway, I will just close the game. I'll set the raid up. I forget, was this coming Wednesday a Gravity Rush, or was this coming Wednesday an MMO? It's a Gravity Rush, right? Because we went to go do Wakfu this Wednesday, and then Wakfu absolutely refused to work. Yeah, okay, so it's Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush on Wednesday. Friday, we'll be back with this to work on the Pokedex for this, figure out some of the routes on this, and maybe if we make really good progress on that, maybe some of the initial mods. So, I know, it wouldn't be an Avery Alexandria stream if it didn't come with some amount of homework, but I want y'all to think about what sort of mods you might want to see, what sort of Pokemon you might want to see, you know, routes, stuff like that. Because on Friday, we'll have some great time working on that. We weren't playing Wakfu, actually. We were going to play Wakfu, and then Wakfu refused to work, so we ended up just going and doing Classic MapleStory again. The next old MMO that we're playing, though, and it's a shame, too, because I love Wakfu. I mentioned this during that stream, but the original fan subgroup for Wakfu, I was a part of that. Like, I'm like OG Wakfu fan. But basically, it didn't work. We went back to Classic MapleStory. We did that for a while. What I'm going to do next time for the MMO thing, because the wheel has spoken, is we are getting Seal Online, which is really cute. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and Seal Online is maybe the most quintessential sort of, like, old MMO. Like, it's the sort of old MMO that inspired this whole idea. Yep, Seal Online, like SEAL. You'll know it's the right place if the website looks like it hasn't really changed from the early 2000s. It's very Fiesta adjacent, yes. So it's very much in that same sort of vein of just like, this is old niche MMO that you played when you were a kid. We're all going to install that not this coming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. and then do it as a big community day. So that would be the 25th is when we will be doing that. Fridays for the foreseeable future, we'll be working on our Pokemon region. And Sundays will be back in normal form on Sunday of next week, with us actually playing Little Witch in the Woods as we are intended to. So that's the stream schedule for the coming week. I will set up the raid to Moriko. I thank you all for, again, just always indulging me in my random ADHD tangents where I'm like, I'm going to stream this, and then before I even get into streaming that, we're building a Pokemon region. It's a lot of fun, though, and I appreciate just, having you all here with me to do that. It's maybe my favorite part of streaming. So, I'll see you all Wednesday for Gravity Rush. I will set the raid up for Moriko. I love you all lots. Thank you all for joining me, and until next time, hoolaloo. Oh yeah, also here's the links for the Discord and the Blue Sky and stuff like that. I'll post any announcements regarding the Pokemon stuff, and that. I'll also probably make a channel in the Discord later. But for now, I love you all. Bye-bye!